Smith. I'm from the LSE Press Office. Just before I hand over to Professor Pissarides, just say a few quick words about how I think this is going to work. He'll be very happy to take questions from the room, of course, but we also have, I believe and I hope, some people listening in by phone. So at some point we will go to them to enable questions from the phones as well. But for now, I'm going to hand over to the new Nobel Prize winner and let you ask him questions if you'd like to. Thank you. Congratulations. Anyone got any questions? If not, I'll ask you some.
How do you feel?
Well, it still hasn't sunk in completely, actually. So, I don't know, it took me by surprise this morning. And little by little, it's beginning to realize that it's reality and not hallucination from the code that I've been suffering for the last 3 days. It's obviously very, very honored. Not really. You can never expect these things. Or you should never expect them that. But it's maybe an honor for LSE as well. And go back to the LSE. This is graduate school.
Professor, I have a question. Normally when we're informing about the Nobel Prize, we're trying to explain to everyone what exactly happened and what is the discovery. And as far as it is very hard for us to understand, could you use your own words to explain our viewers and listeners what actually did you discover? As simple as possible.
Well, of course, Nobel Prizes in economics are not like medicine, where I can tell you I discovered the cure for such and such a disease, although it's really like that. But maybe the best way to explain it is by going back to the time when I started doing my research after I got the appointment here. And the big problem at the time was unemployment in Europe, because unemployment in Europe up to the late 70s when I started here was very low, and it suddenly jumped up. And the question is, why is it going up, and is there anything we can do about it? And when you look at economics literature at the time, there was really no answer to that question. There was no framework to think about those issues. So the way that I started, and also my co-winners independently, started working with students, is to try and develop a framework for dealing with the problem of unemployment that will guide those policymakers and also initiate other research in economics. So it's really more about developing a framework. Now, of course, you could do a framework and no one could use it, and then it gets forgotten. But we're lucky enough that people use this way.
How can your model exactly help policymakers in the current economic crisis? How do you see it fitting in with the current unemployment issues?
Yeah, I mean, unemployment is rising again. In fact, the unemployment response in the previous Great Recession we had, which was in the 1980s, it was more or less uniform in all countries. The policymakers didn't know what to do to deal with unemployment, more or less in the 80s and early 90s. And unemployment went up everywhere. If you look now at the current recession, unemployment went up a lot in Spain and the United States. It actually decreased in Germany. It was partly the framework that we developed, if I can say, rather interesting, that helped policymakers put forward certain ideas that had different impacts on unemployment in the recession. So the way we have really is that it gives you the framework to study the impact of policy on unemployment, and then it's up to the policymakers to decide what policy in particular they would want to follow. And I mean, there are some things that we can say that it's definitely to follow, and some things that should be avoided. But when we get to the final details, really more on political decisions. For example, you could study within this framework what Germany has been doing to keep unemployment low. You could also study what Spain has been doing, which led to an increase in unemployment from something like 8 to 20% within a year.
How can
policymakers use your studies in order to improve the current situation in the employment market?
Well, I can tell you how they have used it. You know, for example, the New Deal for the Unemployed was started a few years ago. The influence of my colleagues was here. It's very much a policy that you could say that it's a good policy within the framework, because what our framework would suggest would be that you shouldn't allow the unemployed to remain unemployed for very long periods of time, because they lose their skills, they lose the sort of mentality that is required to get another productive job. So something like the New Deal, where you would get the unemployed, you would give to the unemployed some work experience after, say, 6 months of unemployment. It's something that would come out of this framework and would be recommended by the kind of framework that we have. It's a good policy response to the increasing unemployment. Now, you go beyond that. The countries that really champion policy recommendations that come out of our framework, like the Scandinavian countries, who run refined policy towards unemployment. And you could come with many different recommendations. For example, I can tell you one that which is being tried now in some countries, and it's good policy, which is to deal with rising youth unemployment, for example, by expanding higher education, providing more places, more subsidized places by the government, and at one and the same time you're reducing unemployment and you're increasing the productivity of the labor force through higher education. And some has been quite successfully in Sweden at least.
Yes. In the current economic climate and governments slashing budgets to slash deficits in this country, as well as countries like Spain and Greece that face serious youth unemployment, how do you think these cuts will affect the way that these governments are dealing with unemployment? Or would you be in favor of smaller budgets to deal with unemployment and restructuring? Or do you think it will be detrimental?
No, I don't think it would be detrimental. I would be in favor of smaller budgets to deal with unemployment. I wouldn't be in favor of unconditional cuts in public spending in the labor market, because that could have bad effects on unemployment. But cutting the budget deficit and at the same time targeting some policies towards unemployment, cheaper policies towards unemployment, could reduce the impact of the budget cuts on unemployment. Because you could get quite far in dealing with unemployment. It is very inexpensive policies. You know, I mean, dealing with unemployment directly, it doesn't have to be the results of expensive training, things like that. You could provide work experience at not much more than what you could spend on unemployment insurance.
Might the Western world have to get used to a higher structural unemployment levels because of the crisis from now on? And if so, or regardless, what message you have for policymakers about it?
No, I don't think we need to have higher structural unemployment than we had before the crisis in the 2000s. You know, we had something like 5.5% or 6% in this country for many years, for example. In America, there's no reason why we shouldn't go back to those numbers now. The impact that the recession is now having on unemployment is due to the recession. It's not due to any structural change in the economy will necessitate higher unemployment. What policymakers could do now to stop structural unemployment building up is what I mentioned, provided they maintain durations of unemployment low. There is no reason why structural unemployment should build up after the end of the recession. So it should be with durations now, with enough time to remain unemployed. It should go back.
are you going to celebrate?
I don't know yet, actually. It's been so sudden. Since I got the phone call, my phone hasn't stopped since I got the phone call. So and I was also at the top of my voice probably that I was in bed trying to recover from a very bad cold. So maybe that's a good place to get this recovery.
Could you tell us a bit about where you were when you found out secretly during the course of your career? Have you sort of always thought, oh, would it be great?
Well, I was staying trying to recover, and then I was feeling in bed, and then I thought, I can't waste my entire day in bed. Like academics, so I got up, was walking around trying to get my head to work and going to do some reading. And all of a sudden the phone rings and it says this is an important, are you Christopher Pissarides? I said, yes. It's an important phone message from Sweden. So it took me surprised. I thought I was hallucinating for a moment. And take a few minutes to sit down and recover before I do anything else.
And what about the prize money? Any ideas what you spend it on?
No, I haven't thought about it.
And did the Prime Minister or someone from Buckingham Palace call with the congratulations already?
I have been answering phone calls actually, so I don't know. The Cypriot president might have called. I'm not sure about the Prime Minister.
And then maybe a message to Greek Cypriots who are very proud of you.
Thank you. We're talking to the Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation.
What would you like to say to people in Cyprus? I think was the question.
Yeah.
What would I like to say? Well, I'm really happy that they responded so well, because I do know there were many phone calls from Cyprus. I mean, Cypriot always a little country, so I mean, I did keep very close contact with the island. So I'm really pleased.
We've also got in the room a lot of colleagues. I don't know, including the LSE director, Howard Davis. Howard, I don't know if you wanted to say anything at this point.
I'm over the moon, Brian. No, I think this is fantastic for the school. Chris has also been one of those economics professors who is very visible to students, who has always carried on teaching here, and so we're absolutely thrilled. And he's someone who has been a member of the LSE for longer than probably he would be pleased if I said, but 38 years. So he's been a one-club man, as we say in football, so we're particularly thrilled by this. The school will be finding ways of celebrating, even if Chris goes back to bed.
Hello. We have seen a kind of deregulation in the labor market in many countries over the past couple of decades. So do you think it is good thing for reducing the unemployment rate in general?
I think so, actually, yeah. It's a little bit more controversial, but I think the deregulation from the regulation that we had, say, 1980, which now has been a good thing for unemployment. You see, despite the fact that, not despite, our work emphasizes ordinary economics as friction in labor markets. It doesn't necessarily mean sort of fighting each other, but it means that labor markets don't work as smoothly as other markets. Up to 2 years ago, we used to say as financial markets. But at least not as smoothly as goods markets. So you do need some regulation. There are a lot of monopolies, for example, that are naturally. But there's a limit to how much regulation can go. For example, I think some employment protection legislation in the form of protecting workers' rights, protecting workers' jobs, employees is good, but very limited, though, not to the extent to which most countries, including Britain, had in 1980, certainly not to the extent that Spain has it now, for example, where they created the two-tier labor market, excessive regulation of one sector and no regulation in another. I don't think that's good for unemployment in the labor market.
Yes, please.
I was going to ask, how much describe unemployment around the world today at the moment? I mean, have you been surprised it hasn't been worse during the global financial crisis than was expected at the very beginning?
No, actually, the only country that surprises me actually with current unemployment, the only country whose unemployment surprisingly comes to the current recession is the United States, which is surprising given that it's the country that we know most because of their statistical data and so many economists working on the problem. But it's a puzzle why unemployment has gone up by as much as it has in the United States and why labor productivity has risen by so much. There are different views by American economists, but in other countries it's not too surprising given the extent of the recession. You see the way, like how much output has fallen. You know, for example, Spain may have surprised some people, but some Spanish economists have come up with convincing explanations as to why that has happened. But American economists haven't provided any convincing explanations as to why U.S. unemployment rate has gone up as much.
Do you have any ideas about why that is?
I think it's probably because American companies rely a lot more on external finance than companies in Europe. And this recession is unusual in that what has done is threatening to do more, at least in uncertainties in order is to cut the sources of external finance. And maybe they're being a little bit overcautious in hiring labor, and they're collecting liquidity from internal funds, just to be able to deal with any loss of source of funds from outside. I think that probably the explanation is there, but it hasn't yet been formulated very formally.
Maybe I could say something from the Centre for Economic Performance.
Sure, please do.
Chris has also been a member of for 38 years.
Yes.
When he joined us, he had already written a classic book on the working for the loan market, on which all his Nobel Prize winning work is actually based. But of course, soon after he joined, unemployment went up, as Chris said, in the early 80s. And we had a weekly seminar, I think, for about 10 years, where Chris was a key teacher of all of us, I would say, and we all learned so much from him. So it's absolutely thrilling for everybody in what was then the Centre for Labour Economics, now Centre for Economic Performance. I'm still very proud of you, Chris.
Thank you. In fact, all the work was done at the Centre for Labour Economics. Two short visits to the United States, which were connected again to the centre. One was at the Ashfield group at Princeton. But the Centre for Labour Economics at that time was really the best way to set up a research center, because there was one issue that was a big problem, unemployment, and there was a small number of us being interested in that issue and just working on it over a 10-year period and feeding on each other and doing work. They were extremely influential work by Leah Nichol that was produced there. And it's really the way to run a research center. You should have the issue and have the people to work on it.
Yeah, just to explain for anyone who doesn't know, as Lord Layard pointed out, Professor Pissarides is a research fellow also at the Centre for Economic Performance, which is an autonomous research centre based here at LSE, just for anyone who didn't quite understand all of the academic acronyms that we sometimes throw at you. I don't know if anyone else has questions. Yeah, please.
If you could summarise yourself how significant you think your work has been.
Don't be modest.
I'm not really the best person. Sometimes that's really SB. And I didn't hear what the Nobel Committee said this morning either, because they have me on the phone in case they have any questions, so I can't even quote directly from what they said. I mean, what pleases me sometimes when I see is that people, including policymakers, would talk about unemployment within a consistent, coherent framework that takes into account the rest of the economy. You know, it's not just, we must.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Beg your pardon.
Could you mind if we start that answer again from the beginning?
That's my fault. I'm very sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, because I was saying that I didn't hear what the Nobel Committee said, so I couldn't quote directly. I'm sure they've done their homework and they'll get a definition from them. But what pleases me, though, is that if you see what people, including policymakers, how they used to approach the problem of unemployment, how they used to talk about it in say, 20, 30 years ago, and how they talk about it now, it's very different. Now, I mean, we realize that although unemployment brings a lot of dissatisfaction with life and everything, it's also an economic problem, which we have to look at it a little bit more objectively and see how it interacts with the rest of the economy and how decisions made by the unemployed themselves affect the outcome of unemployment in the economy, how policy would affect it, and why, how people respond to the incentives when they're unemployed. And all those issues is really what our sort of mine and my co-author's approach to unemployment has been trying to do, mainly to study the incentives that you could give to both unemployed workers and companies creating jobs, incentives for job creation, job acceptance by the unemployed, and the job loss that might come after that when circumstances change. And it's really more like where we've been influential is really the way that I see people analyzing these issues rather than just vague statements.
This theory is also applies to the housing market. Have you looked at that area at all, or is that your colleagues that do that?
No, but others have done, including two of my colleagues who are here. It's very similar. In fact, in some ways, the models we developed are even more suitable for labour markets because you see, the whole idea, one of the key ideas is that you cannot tell how good, the way we analyze it, you cannot tell how good a worker will be for you as a company unless you actually meet that worker, possibly hire that worker, have him produce fairly well, and see how well matched he is to the requirements of your job. When the housing market, of course, that applies more than anything. When you see a house from the outside, you can't really tell how good a house would be for you and your family unless you go inside and even live it for a while and see it and learn all its quirks. So the model has been applied to the housing market with success.
Okay, any more questions from the room? Right, what I'm going to do is attempt to try and bring in some people by phone in a minute, but as you may have gathered, it's taking me a while. So if anybody, I don't know if there's anyone who wants to follow up with a one-to-one interview. If so, now's a good time to mention that. Yeah. So what I suggest we do with Chris, if it's all right, is if you wouldn't mind interviews and then I'll queue up. Thank you very much. If there's anyone who'd like to ask a question, please do go ahead and we'll try to accommodate you. We should get it. I can turn it up. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question now? There's a bit of background noise here, sorry. Everyone, if you could keep the noise down, please. Yes, please.
Your theory be applied to emerging markets and the search to the labor market, especially in these countries. If you can tell a bit about this.
As emerging markets approach the OECD economies, then you will get into a situation like OECD economies. Differently. When OECD economies are first moving up from emerging market status to developed states, they take some European countries. They make many mistakes, because when you are growing very fast, you can give lots of benefits to the economy, work is being below restrictions to safeguard jobs and other institutions that might arise in labor markets. But in fact, those are not very good when your rate of growth goes down again after you reach the sort of developed status. So it's best to avoid these sort of things, and that's what our approach to labor markets and policies to avoid when growing fast, when market status. So for example, avoid what Spain has done, for example. In Spain, was not dying very fast, because they are very fast and then
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations again.
Our next question comes from Mark Howell. Your line is open.
Hello, Professor. Congratulations, first of all. My question is about countries like Brazil that are living a boom economy, but with high inflation rates. The government is trying to solve that with subsidies, for example, since many years ago, and it doesn't work. It's not working right now. And how can you apply the theory, and if you expect that price will help to promote your theory and help to policymakers?
Latin American countries actually, not so much Chile, but more have made some mistakes of Southern Europe. It may be historical. The way I would say, given the state of the development of Chile and other countries, the way we have to respond to it is very similar to the way we were saying before that Southern European countries should respond. I mean, subsidies should work if they are targeted well to the unemployed. And you target them in a way that they will get direct work experience to young people, especially, but also go there rather than spending on training programs, which are very expensive and they don't yield very positive results. So I don't know the details of your programs to be able to tell you, because you've done A and not B, that subsidies haven't worked. But usually small subsidies can go a long way to reducing durations of unemployment. And then once the economy picks up again, then you would the unemployment should go down to low levels. But Latin American countries, so generally, they do have institutional structures through the labor unions, cross federations, wage bargaining, that are not very flexible in my view of the dynamics.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. But just one question. Do you expect that this prize will help to promote your studies and theory to policymakers?
Yeah, I hope so, because I obviously think that it would be good for policymakers work. Well, I mean, there has been a lot of policy response actually to our ideas, especially in Scandinavian countries and the United Kingdom, and also I would say even Spain and Italy did not very well, but countries like the United Kingdom in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, particularly, in fact, have applied our ideas with a lot of success. So I hope Latin America can do the same.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Do you have any further
We have
operations?
another question for Mr. Davos. Your line is open.
Yes, hello, Professor Pissarides. Congratulations, first of all. I'm calling on behalf of Sky Radio in Greece. So I would be very, whether your theory, your work could be implemented in a country in the position that Greece is now, with the strict measures, and whether it could be helpful.
Well, it could be. In fact, we have made some colleagues recommendations about Greece and what it could do in its labor markets now. I think it could, and there are many things that the Greek government could do, in fact, to reduce the problems in the labor market. You know, Greece, for example, has extremely low participation rates, especially from women, but also men. It has very early retirement age. You know, those things are not good for labor markets. It has a very strong protection, job protection of those who are in jobs. You know, companies cannot get rid of workers easily when there is no more work to do. And when you get into that situation, then companies will be very wary before hiring any workers, because they're worried that once they hire them, they might be stuck with them and not be able to get rid of them when they are no longer needed. You know, those reforms are essential, and they could and they really should be done alongside the other reforms that are taking place now. I know a little bit more about the Greek situation as you can understand.
Can I just say, a word about your fellow Cypriots here in the UK and in Cyprus?
Yeah.
They feel really proud.
Oh, that they were. Well, I'm really happy by the response in Cyprus and Greece. I'm very attached to the country. I was on the monetary policy committee. I brought the euro to Cyprus for 7 years. I've watched the economy closely, and of course I went to school there, and I ended up here partly because of the situation that we were going through the last 2 or 3 decades. So I'm really happy about that. It was one of the things that made me happiest, actually, is the reaction there, the way they embraced me as a Cypriot.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. Congratulations again.
I'm showing no further questions.
Do you have any further questions?
No, I'm sorry, I'm showing no further questions.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much indeed then. Thank you.